Wigington Show. Welcome. May I read you a little bit of Shakespeare? Let's see if I can find the right tabby. This is from Romeo and Juliet. It's one of my favorite parts. Many a morning hath there been seen, with tears augmenting the fresh morning's dew, adding to clouds more clouds with his deep sighs. But also soon with the all-cheering sun should in the farthest east begin to draw the shady curtains from Aurora's bed, away from light steals home on my heavy son. And private in his bedchamber pens himself, shut up his windows, locks fair daylight out, and makes himself an artificial light. Black and portentous must his humor approve, unless his good counsel may remove. I don't know if I've got some weird type of tism or anything, but when I read stuff, like, I automatically throw in words I think should be there. I did that like 3 times in that passage. Anyways, this is when Romeo's dad's asking Benvolio where his bro is, his son. And specifically in this chapter, I love the contrast in his words. Artificial night. I don't know, it means something to me. Just a few letters later, this is Romeo speaking. This is my favorite thing Shakespeare's ever written. Alas, that love, whose view is muffled still, should without eyes see pathways to his will. Where shall we dine? Oh me, what fray is here? Yet tell me not, for I've heard it all. Here's much to do with hate, but more with love. Why then, O brawling love, O loving hate, O anything of nothing first create? O heavy lightness, serious vanity, misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms, feather of lead, bright smoke, cold fire, sick health, still waking sleep, that is not what it is. This love feel I, that feel no love in this, dost thou not laugh? Benvolio just responds just like I would if my friend were to say anything like that. No, cuz I'd rather weep. I read Shakespeare some, but really getting into it. It's my plan sometime this summer to read Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. I've been trying to read it for the better part of a decade, and I always just fizzle out within the very first few little parts just because it's such a long book. But it's on the docket for this year at least. But I'm no stranger to long books. I enjoy long books. One of my favorite books I've ever read was David Copperfield, and it was like, my edition was like 700-800 pages. Same thing for the Brothers Karamazov. It was long. I don't mind a long book, but this one, it's just a lot. But anyways, I read some, like a book nerd will do, how to read a certain book of certain renowned difficulty. And one thing they said was to brush up on Shakespeare, specifically Hamlet. And I read Hamlet, and I enjoyed it. But then I listened to a couple of lectures on it, specifically some by Harold Bloom, and realized how little I caught in it. I've got Hamlet's exhaustive commentary, I guess you would call it, on Shakespeare and all his works, and I'm gonna read that shortly. I've got a few things that I'm working on reading before then. Before I get into books and nerd stuff, I look like this because I just ran a 5K. I'm training for the Swampers 5K because I'm in horrific health. For 3 years, I focused almost solely on just garage powerlifting. I never cared about competing, but I just cared about getting strong, and not compared to like professional powerlifters or my friend Stefan. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's an internet friend. I'm not strong at all, but compared to most people, I was a lot stronger than everybody else. But I I dirty bulked just because mass equals strength in a lot of cases, as long as you're doing some exercise. And I just got horrifically out of shape and felt bad. I swore to myself that when I was graduating high school, it was really after my senior year of basketball. I swore to myself I would never ever run again. And of course I kind of broke that a little bit, but the reason I played 3 sports my whole life when it was an option, but like always played sports, and I always hated conditioning because I never felt like it made me a better athlete. Now, I know it's a crazy thing to say, but what I mean is, take basketball for instance. We weren't lifting weights. Lifting weights will make you a better athlete, but with basketball, 90% of the game is running. And 50% of that 90%, so 45% of the entire game, is running and jogging backwards, playing defense, if it's a halfway, even game. So I was always just like, why don't we just play more basketball and we'll accomplish the sprinting and the conditioning all at the same time while also working on plays or skills or stuff like that. It never made sense. It will never make sense to me why that's a thing. I'm all for conditioning and strength training. Football is a little bit different type of scenario because there's a lot of pausing in the game and huddles and stuff like that. But basketball, which was my main sport, it made absolutely no sense to me why we would do conditioning when we could just play basketball. Um, so, but I hated sprints and running so much. I swore to never do it again. And I went through a phase in my early 20s where I was like, I'm doing a little bodybuilding. I didn't really take it seriously, but I got big. And then I was wanting to try to keep that in check. And I got big, and I wasn't fat jacked. Like I was pretty, I wasn't sloppy, but I was in pretty good shape. But I would jog on the treadmill, but I didn't really consider that running. Um, but after this winter, I just was feeling bad and really anxious about my health. Uh, and went to sleep every night. Just knew I was having a heart attack because my chest and my shoulder and my arm would just kill me all night. And I was like, well, that's definitely a heart attack coming. Well, you know how late night thoughts will get you. They always, the most irrational things always happen to you at night. Your mind just loses its grip on reality, which, in all honesty, the shoulder pain is not, and the chest pain wasn't even really chest pain, it was shoulder pain. And laying on my side, well, lo and behold, it's this shoulder, and it's the one I dislocated playing football in high school. But it was enough scare that I just was at work one day, and I was like, I've got to do something. What's the one thing that would just, I'm a type of person, when I do something, I go all in and I get drastic. So I was like, I hate running. There's a 5K coming up in like 2 months. I'm going to sign up for it. So I've been somewhat training. I haven't been very faithful with it. One of the first times I ran the entire 5K circuit that I've got an exact 5K circuit that's almost entirely all sidewalk. It's very cool. Uh, I think it was the second time I ran it, which I didn't run it in full. But like I'd walk a little bit, jog, walk a little bit. Like it hurt my leg so much I was down for 2 weeks. I could barely walk for 2 weeks. So I rested for 2 weeks, and I've been kind of going once, maybe twice a week if I can. But I've picked it up this week because my 5K, like the official race, is next Friday. And I've been ramping up training. And today, for the first time, I ran the entire 5K, 3.1 miles, without stopping. The time was not impressive. It was 35 minutes, but I didn't stop. And it was literally one of the hardest things I've ever done. And it's so miserable to admit that because there's ultra marathon runners and all these incredible athletes, but words cannot express how much I hate running. I've done other, probably more difficult things in my life that I should brag about, but this is the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, I believe. Just because I wanted to run the whole thing, but my body's natural response was to slow down. So I actually had to stay conscious the whole time to not stop. The running necessarily wasn't that hard. My legs are sore and it was hot and heart rate stayed high, but like that, just staying cognizant the whole time to remind myself, hey, you can't stop running yet. Hey, you can't stop running yet. And that's just miserable. I don't like paying attention to stuff like that. I like to if I'm running or walking or doing anything, I like to let my imagination run wild. But I'm pretty proud of that, I guess, that I was able to accomplish that. I'm so ADHD that running's hard because I find myself just wanting to walk, or because my imagination's going, thinking about a book or something. Uh, Speaking of books, this is a show mainly about books, it seems. I didn't set out to make this show about books, but it's just kind of ended up being one of my things. Um, I'm currently reading 4 books outside of just daily uh, scripture reading, which I'm in the Gospel of Luke right now. And the Gospel of Luke is currently, for the past 5 or 6 years, been my favorite gospel. But I'm reading Sense and Sensibility by Austin. I'm reading a Abby Jimenez book. The Hobbit. I'm listening to a Lord of the Rings audiobook in between stuff, and something I can't remember what it's called on Kindle Unlimited. It is a very, with respects, it's a very, how do I say this and not be disrespectful? I like the book. Let me just go ahead and say that. I like the book. I'm enjoying it. But it's very low stakes. It's the equivalent of a Hallmark movie or something like that. Something that's enjoyed, but it's casual reading. It's you don't have to be very invested in it. But it's free on Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is great because you can just find boring stuff, not boring stuff, but just great stuff to read for no cost other than the Kindle Unlimited membership, which I think is included with Prime. But I'm reading all those things, and I'm really enjoying The Hobbit right now. I haven't read it. I was thinking the other day, I've always said that I've read The Hobbit, and I'm pretty sure I have, but I have my doubts because I would have read it when I was young, and I'm not sure that I finished it. So I might not have actually read The Hobbit before, but I've seen the movies, which I think are poor movies, by the way. But I'm really enjoying reading The Hobbit. And, I've got it over here. I've got this cool special edition. I don't have the dust cover, but it's got a cool edge painting, and it's got cool drawings from Mr. Tolkien himself with these 2 maps. And the edition's just beautiful. And look at that. That's wonderful. But I've been really enjoying it. And I love something. I've been picking up on a few things. One, I know I've read a majority of it if I haven't read the whole thing. But this time around, I'm really, really enjoying the songs and the poems that Bilbo and his dwarf friends have been singing and reciting. Those have been my favorite part. For one, because I'm getting better at reading poetry. I've always had a thing where, like, the second something's in a stanza or in a poem form, I can read it, but I can never like recollect or comprehend what I'm reading and I think I've nailed it down to where I'm trying to figure out the rhyme or the reason, and that always just weighs me down and encumbers me where I can't even understand what I'm reading, and it's just simply putting something in stanzas. I can read I can read anything. I'm a decent reader, but the second I've always struggled with that things were put in stanzas. But this time, since I've been reading Shakespeare and writing some sonnets, just I'm been able to grasp a little bit, and they're very simple things, but I've really enjoyed reading them. They make the book, in my opinion, because it perfectly encapsulates the dwarfs and the hobbits, that they have kind of like that shared lifestyle, which I guess the elves sing in the book too. But I love the adventure novel. Just Bilbo and some bros going to do some cool stuff in adventure. It's as innocent of a book as you can get, and I love it. I absolutely love it. But one thing I loved about one of the first introduction thing is explaining Bilbo has his part took. I don't know the proper pronunciation of it. These are hobbits that were a little less respected because they had kind of a wild streak. They like to adventure and get a little anything. And he had the other side who was very respectable, and that's his lineage. And I always love how there's that two natures to humanity that perfectly is encapsulated in Bilbo, where we want to be respected, we want to go with the flow, and that's good. That's a really good thing. But then there's that side of us that's very um, childlike and innocent, but at the same time a little bit um, mischievous, where we want to get into a little trouble, but not like bad trouble. Like we want to get into some sticky situations. We want to exercise our ability to show courage and determination and tenacity towards a goal. And I love that how Bilbo eventually he succumbed to that wily nature of the Took side of his family, or Took side of his family. I think that's a great description of humanity, specifically men in modern times. That's why this is such a good book for young boys to read. If I have a child, a man child, I will have him definitely read The Hobbit. Um, what else am I reading? Uh, Nothing that important. I gave up on Don Quixote. Well, I paused on Don Quixote, but I'll come back to it. It's just difficult. It might be the most difficult book I've ever read, just because of how ancient it is. It's a book that has no quotation marks. It's unbelievably difficult to read, but it's very funny. I do recommend Don Quixote because it's renowned and funny. It's not some stuffy old classic or anything like that. It is a very hilarious book. I've laughed out loud a bunch of times, but it's just difficult and it requires a lot of concentration. I wanted to talk about. I can't remember. So, book review time. And let me just say that this is 100% me trying to get some clicks and subscribes to my channel, because this is a very hot book right now. And I think it's number 2 on Audible. I don't know what it is on New York Times or the Amazon, but I bought this from, first off, plug, Court Street Books. I believe that's the name. It's on Court Street in Florence, and it's our local small business bookstore. And they sold me this copy, and I'm very happy they sold me this copy, because they didn't say one word about me walking in there and buying this book. This is a very girly book, but I like girly books. I like any good story, and I read this book this week. I believe it came out just this week. If not this week, it was last week. But this is the first Abby Jimenez book I've ever read, and apparently it's the third in the series. So, my bad. I've missed 2 books, and it's something I hate more than anything. I'm going to go ahead and throw a spoiler alert, because there's nothing worse than getting something ruined. So if you want to read this book and you don't want to know anything, definitely stop right now and come back to this later. On that note, the only thing I really didn't like about this book was there is a trigger warning about some of the things in that. And while that is a very kind thing to do, to me it is irksome. And here's why. And I know people are going to disagree with me, and I respect the ever living mess out of those disagreements. But for me, you're, first off, when you do something like this, you're giving away a little bit, and why I don't like that. And for people who do need trigger warnings, I feel for you. I understand that you're reading stuff, you brings up feelings of trauma and things like that. But remember, this is a book, and you can just, I think this is getting bad, and stop reading. That being said, I'm writing some stuff, and a friend, I've asked to read, asked for trigger warnings about stuff that I'm writing that has stuff, and I told her like, hey, this is a chapter that could be things. So maybe I'm a hypocrite. I don't know. But here's the difference where I wouldn't put that in print in my own book is I'm asking her to read this for me. And I think that's the difference. People are buying this and they can just simply just stop reading it if they want to. So I don't agree with it, but it does not by any means ruin this book for me. I just I laughed at it, which is not the right thing to do. And if that offends people, I'm sorry. I just moved on. But this book, I'm going to read the back of it since I got a little time. When it comes to love, Emma is cursed. Every guy she dates finds his true love after they break up. It turns out she's not the only one afflicted with this condition. His name is Justin, and his Reddit thread about being love's good luck charm has gone viral. Now the two have come up with an ingenious plan. If they date one another, their curses will cancel out and they will go on to find their soulmate. Only Justin wasn't supposed to be so unbelievably cute and hilarious. When Emma's toxic mother shows up and Justin has to assume guardianship of his 3 siblings, they're suddenly navigating a lot more than they expected, including catching real feelings. Has fate finally brought the perfect pair together, or will their cure be more hazardous than the cure itself? So what this book is, these two people, Justin and Emma, decide, hey, every time we date somebody, we break up, and then they go on and fall in love and get married. So they decide they're going to get together, date, and they have like their rules of their relationship. They're going to go on, I believe it was 4 dates, and then they're going to break up and hopefully find their one true love. It's a very, very good luck truck type of vibe, if you remember that movie. So I saw that description. I was like, well, she's just spoofing off a Good Luck Chuck. And that movie was not good. But I got it anyway. And I was really, really this book grabbed me. It did. Abby Jimenez or Jimenez, I'm not sure how you pronounce that name. It's definitely some sort of Latin pronunciation. But I'm gonna say Jimenez because she won something on the Food Network. Anyways, she is a really great writer. Though her content, I would say, is she's not Austen, which who is, or Charles Dickens, but who is. But she writes very, very well. Like, I didn't have any. There was nothing that really bothered me about the text. There was one conversation with I'm terrible with names, Justin and his friends, and they ask him about the girl, and he goes on and gives her a novel length, or like if I was going to tell the opening paragraphs about the character, let's name her Claire, and I'm going to tell the reader about what she looks like. He did that exact thing. He went way overboard with the description of the girl. And that bothered me for a split second. One, because guys don't talk that way. Guys would have said she's pretty. I like how she looks. She's got a good personality. It's fun talking to her. And that'd be about it. I'm going to see how it goes. So guys don't really do that. But then I got to thinking, I was like, that's okay. Because it was just a good place for her to give the reader a description of the female main character, and it be endearing, and it come from from his perspective rather from her perspective, talking about, I hate my hair, or whatever. It was a natural way to do it, even though it wasn't authentic, and that's okay, I think, because I don't think novels should be so authentic that it's just trivial and meaningless. So I've decided that I think it was good how she did that. But anyways, the story, what really drew me in is the story starts and these two people are talking. They're in 2 different parts of the United States, and they're messaging over text, or online and then text. And then she goes into phone calls. Of course, they fall in love, but the conversation was so good. I don't know if anybody that reads has ever tried to write good conversation. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult, and it's one of the hardest things that I've encountered with writing is writing conversations. And hers felt very good, and it bridged between, it felt real, but it wasn't boring like real, but it was fantastic. And um, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Fiction. It split that perfectly. It balanced it very perfectly. I was very impressed with her ability to have conversation and have it feel very good, but not also being boring like real life conversation. It was very good. Um, the drama was good. I like how it wasn't a lot of these chick books. I wonder if this microphone picked up that burp. I've got a little indigestion after my run. Um, I wonder what was these books. Um, so many of them come off of is I hate men, and that's fine if that's somebody's stance. But a lot of the time the drama will center around like a misunderstanding that this really good guy is actually just one of the bad guys, and it's a misunderstanding. And there's a third act breakup, and she realizes that she had it wrong. Whatever. The drama didn't center around him. He got to stay a good guy the entire time. I really, really enjoyed that because, like Lord of the Rings, and yes, I'm comparing the two, like all the good guys are just good guys. The bad guys are just bad guys. It's not like Dune or Game of Thrones, all this other stuff where these characters are morally gray and you don't really know. That's okay, but like I'm tired of it. I'm tired of reading that. It's like I want to hear about a good guy and a good girl, and the drama and the interesting things are surrounding them. And I really enjoyed that her choices to do that and to give um, specifically a lot of female readers a good guy to like that has no real flaws. That he's just a good dude. Um, and My favorite character was Abby. What's her name? Emma's friend. I can't remember the name of the book. She's one of the in these books, these chick books. She's the best friend that I've ever read. She was great. Um, if I had to pick something I didn't like the book, it gets a little. I don't want to say it like that. There's a lot of emphasis on Emma being an empathetic person, and it's okay. We get it, but it wasn't bad. I don't want to say anything bad about this book, but this book, I'll give it in chick fiction a 5 stars out of 5 stars, and in just general novels, I'm gonna give it a 4 because I really liked it. It reads well, quick, which I think these type of books should read quick. That's the reason they sell like hotcakes is you can devour these things. You tend to not want to put them down. There wasn't a whole lot of cliff. I don't like when every chapter ends on a cliffhanger. This book wasn't like that. It felt good. Um, I highly recommend to pick it up even if you're a dude. Um, but since this is a series, I've started the second one. I can't remember what it's called. Yours truly, and I have a qualm about this book. It's not as it's. I don't think it's as well written as this one. Here's my thing. It's a story about two people, a boy and a girl. They're really really into each other, all this stuff, and I'm just starting. The romance is growing. You can see it's obvious where it's going. That's not a bad thing. It just means it's believable. I don't like people. This is the worst thing when people say they don't like a book because it's predictable. Well, and I'm just like, if it's predictable, that means it's believable. So my only qualm with that second one is the male main character. He has high anxiety, and she constantly tells you that he has high anxiety, and she shouldn't have done that because she has done a really good job of just showing you that he has a high anxiety. So I haven't finished that book, so I'm not going to give you a review, but that's my only complaint is that she's constantly reminding you with his words or whoever's words is like she keeps telling you, hey, so and so, he's got anxiety, he's got anxiety, he's got anxiety. But she didn't need to do that. He really she showed through his conversations and his narration that he has anxiety. So she didn't even really have to do that. So, anyways, sorry, no cool soliloquy this week with a green screen and a guitar, but I was running a little behind, busy writing sermons. I taught lesson last night at church. I've been a little busy, so I didn't have a lot of time to prepare to do a lot of stuff. I'm going to hopefully have a guest on next week. But anyways, share this video with somebody if you like it. Tell somebody, post it. I would be very great. I would love for this to become a thing where I could make a little money and be able to do some cool stuff with video and things like that. Talk to cool people. Oh, this book, and I read another. I can't remember what it was, but I just had the idea, like, why can't I write one of these? So I'm going to. So I got to finish editing a book. That means a lot to me. I'm going to finish editing it, and then I'm going to sit on it for a long while and think about what I'm going to do with it, because I don't know if I'm going to try to publish or not. But in the meantime, I'm pausing all other projects, and I'm going to write a chick book. And I'm going to aim for like 80,000 words maybe. And I'm going to put it up on Kindle Unlimited, probably for free. Just because I can write that type of stuff. I really think I can. And I've written some stuff like that, and it's fun. And I like reading it. It's fun to write, but I'm going to try to do one, take it seriously, and put it out there for some more content for my 6 subscribers to enjoy. But this is it. Thank you.